Okay, hello and welcome to Rugby Coach Weekly, talking about moving up age grades from, well, for you guys, from under 14s to under 15s. My aim is not to give you what I think you should be doing in terms of the style of coaching, just give you some ideas around the sorts of challenges, perhaps, or the sorts of differences that you're going to be facing next year. Now, inevitably, some of the rugby problems will be the same rugby problems that you'll face moving through different age groups. And yeah, we're going to cross over those. But I'm thinking now mostly between under 14s to under 15s. As you can see, I'm using a Jamboard, so that means that I can write on it more effectively and make some notes as I go along. So just in terms of my experience, I'm not quite sure why the thing's disappeared from the my picture there, but I can't believe that I've been coaching for over 30 years. Probably known one or two of you for quite some time in that space as well. In terms of coaching this age group, I was director of rugby at Cranley School. I also coached the under 16s at Cranley School and RGS. And currently I'm working with the Bristol Bears Junior Academy. So that's under 14s, 15s and 16s. I also did the hard yards of seeing my son through under 6s through to under 16s and all the challenges which go with that. And any coach who says they have a smooth ride through their coaching journey is probably lying, or they're outstanding. And we had some good moments and we had some tough moments, and I certainly learned a lot, but also learned a lot from listening to other coaches. So at the end of this, or any stage you want to add in your own thoughts, that would be brilliant. So I'm going to try and focus on 4 different areas. And I think the main thing really, as I said before, is we've got to think about our season and how we're going to operate as coaches within our season. And one of the things I want to reiterate is we've got to think about us in this. Now, that's quite strange because we're often sort of said we've got to try and make it about the players, but we've also got to think about us, because if we're not comfortable, if we're not happy, then the players aren't happy either. We have got to be in the best space possible to give the best of ourselves. So one of the questions I think you should be asking is not only what to the players, what do you want from the season, but also what do you want from me? And when I say from me, I mean from you as a group of coaches. What do you want from the coaches? Where do you want us to help you have the best season possible? Now, I'm guessing that you're going to have groups within your team. Some are going to be very focused on playing the best rugby they could possibly can, maybe looking to move up levels, but others will be less interested in the rugby, more in the team, but you still want to support them in the best possible way. So ask them the questions. Don't just ask it at the start of the season, ask it throughout the season. What do you want from us? What do you want different? Now, you don't have to do exactly what they say. It's always an open conversation. Can they work with you and you work with them? Now, you're probably very familiar with the new laws for next year, but let's just think about what the team, what the game will look like. What does it look like at under 15s? What's going to be the difference? And I think that my experience of being involved in this standard rugby, but also I go onto YouTube, watch people's clips and games. The game isn't quite what we imagine it to be. We have this wonderful picture that under 50 is going to look like a proper game of rugby, but actually there are still elements in there which will hold it back. I think The lineouts are still a little bit of a mess, and we'll come to the lineouts in a moment. One of the key problems will be the nines pass. If you've got, and I would say this is definitely something you should be doing throughout all your age groups. If there's one position that you really want to focus on and spend the most time on, is developing nines, not just one nine, but several nines. And really under 15s, the nine pass tends still to be quite short. And therefore, we have this idea that we can develop this wonderful game plan, but it's held back by the fact that we can't whip the ball away quickly from the scrum. And I also think that fitness is very mixed. It would be wonderful if we could spend more time on this area, but you can't expect your players to be hitting a certain sort of fitness for two reasons. One is that they're busy people and you don't have time in training. But the other thing is, because they're growing at different rates, they'll drop in and drop out of fitness. Some of your boys will look like they've grown up already into some sort of muscular, super fit young man, and other players will just still be in that process of going through all the changes that they do at that age, and they may not be the sort of athlete that they want to be. So we can't again try to be too focused on trying to do too much with the fitness. We just got to help them develop them at their pace. So that's why I think we've got to focus on building blocks throughout the season. And those blocks are piece by piece. Where do we want to be by game one? What would our game one look like? Now, the game one is never going to be the complete picture, but at under 15s, what do we want to have there? Well, you want to have a line out, which at least functions. You want to have a scrum that is safe. Now, the game one, you're not going to have a dominant scrum necessarily. You may have one already, but that's not the thing you should be aiming for. Do I have a safe scrum? I'm going to come back to that later on. And then I think you've got to be focusing on two things. In attack, what is attack going to look like in game one? What's going to be a really good thing for us to get to? And it doesn't have to be super sophisticated. So the thought I had was, can we retain possession for 3 phases? Now, there's not much ambition in that at the moment, because really you want to be doing a bit more with it. And then you're saying within that retention, can we, by the end of it, do we sometimes, not every time, have a positive outcome? And for me, there are 2 positive outcomes. One is clearly a line break. Can we create a line break? And the other one is, if we can't create a line break, can we put in a positive kick? Now, that's just one idea. It's got to suit your team. But what is your picture for game one? That would be your first block. And then the second block probably is half term. Your third block will be Christmas. And each time you are saying, have we gone up a level? Have we gone up another level? Defense, I think there's 2 things in defense we can look at. One is, can we fill? So this is defense. Should put that there. Defense. Can we fill the passing width? Now, what I mean by that is, and it's very much based down to the length of the 9 pass. If this is the width of the pitch, and this is, say, a breakdown ruck, there's the blind side. Let's say we put 2 players in there. But can we fill the width of the pass? Teams are very unlikely to be doing 3, 4, 5 long passes much beyond, say, that there. So can we get players into this space here? This is the passing width. And then can we get them off the line? So that could be game part 1. Can we get so we can cut out this last pass? If teams can get beyond that, brilliant, well played. They're a very good team. But that's our week, that's our game 1. And then by game say 4 or 5, the half term, we might have got some line speed. The second question is making sense of their journey is winning. At under 14s, you're going through quite a transition. You're moving up from the new rules of play under 13s, which look like a semi-game of rugby, and suddenly we're on the big pitch under 14s, where it looks more like a game of rugby. We're trying to find out now winning becomes more important to them at under 15s. Now, I think we need to embrace that in a positive way and ask them again the question, what does winning look like for them? And that doesn't necessarily mean winning games, but winning situations, winning scenarios, winning things which you can then say, great, we've done this, we've achieved this, or we didn't get there, but we were close, or we didn't get there, what could we do differently? Again, put the winning back on them. Right, let's have a look at the new laws. Not much difference. An extra 10 minutes, but they're older, they're bigger, they should be able to last a bit longer. There's no such thing as a natural fitness. The games that they play will give them a bit more fitness. The training you're doing will be a bit more intense. The cost of doing extra fitness at training means you spend less time on the skills. Can you mix that up? The main difference you will see is an uncontested lift. And we're going to come on to that when we look at the skills. And what does that uncontested lift look like for the game? But otherwise, it is very much what you were playing at under 14s, just a bit bigger and a bit longer. So where's the skills focus? Well, the skills focus for everyone is going to be the new tackle laws, inevitably. Now, the thing is, because the players are changing quite a lot in terms of their bodies, in terms of their growth, the new tackle laws will probably create some difficulties because of their ability to get the right bend. So what we're seeing is, in order to get the right bend, is look at the shin angle. The shin angle tells you whether they're able to bend to get low enough. If the shin angle of the player to make the tackle is upright, it is very unlikely that they're going to be able to bend effectively. Now, for you coaching, we've often said, get yourself inside. Here's the ball carrier. There's a good effort of the ball carrier here, quite thin legs. Here's the ball carrier there. We've often said, get inside this hula hoop. Don't get inside the hula hoop because your feet will be too close. You're very likely to get too high. Let's get ourselves a bit further away and concentrate on hitting below the ball. Now, with the under 15s, they're going to start wanting to impose themselves physically. And the difficulty will be that they want to get close and they want to smash into this player. So we're going to have to work very hard on focusing below the ball. And that means in training, we'll need to be more exact. But don't be negative, be positive. If a player mishits and goes in above here, don't make it a bad thing. Just make it, right, let's get a bit lower. Let's aim to get a bit lower. Not, oh, we're going to be penalized. We're going to be penalized. Let's get a bit lower. What can we do to get lower? How can we get ourselves to the right height? So as I say, the key is the bend at the knees and the bend at the hips, but let's get this shin angle lower. I've been working particularly on trying to get the players to drive their knee down when they've arrived, but that's for another time. The new tackle laws also mean that the game will change a bit because the players will now, the ball carrier will have the ball unencumbered by the tackler. So that means that they can pass out of the tackle, but also after the tackle. It's interesting, I'm not going to go too much into the pros and cons of touch games, but generally, if you've got players going to ground, can they pop the ball off more often in your games? That's a good skill to put into place because it also helps the player arriving, the supporting player, to get used to the fact that the player There's my effort at a player popping the ball off. The contact area, again, under 15s, they like to take on players physically. Can we get to edges? Now, I've heard spaces, not faces, lots of things like that. I think these become platitudinal. It just becomes sayings, it become cliches. Ask the players, what are you trying to achieve in the contact area? What are you trying to achieve? Why are you doing it? Keep asking them why they're doing it. And they may say spaces, not faces. They may say try to get to the twigs or get to the branches, keep away from the body. That's fine. I don't mind them saying it. I want to see action. Why are you doing it? What was the reason for doing that? Scrum focus. Absolutely crucial that you're getting as many players to work on their profiles in training. And that is not just the forwards, every single player. This webinar is going out a day before England play Wales. The England captain is Ellis Genge. Ellis Genge played for England under 18s and he was in the back row. So these players will be moving through the positions. You've got to give them every chance. A good profile is good for not just scrummaging, but for rucking, for contact. So there's worth spending time on the profiles. And I think that once you've done the profiles, start to work on what I call the connections. So can the players work together in strong profiles? So it's all well and good, this player getting a strong profile on his own, but when they're bound up with another player, can they do the same thing? And inevitably, you're on the lineout focus. Now, here is the challenge, because players are not going to be strong enough to lift every single one of their teammates. But it is a long-term project. You want to go from lifters, that's the number of lifters there, to that's the number of lifters by the end of the season. So you want to get more lifters involved. Jumpers, well, that's a bonus, but I think that everyone could be working on lifting. Now, it may be that they can't actually lift them very high to start off with, but it doesn't mean that they can't be working on those skills every single week, just for a couple of minutes. Can we work on the right body position, the hips, hip shape, looking forward, driving from the legs and the body first, and then the lift at the end? Okay, let's move on to the play focus. Someone's dropped something into the chat. Definitely aim and say bats can go into line and be lifted too. So it's going to be an interesting little journey to find the people who can be lifted. I just think you've got to give everyone a chance trying to be involved with that. Now, some players are going to be forever backs. But the more players you can get involved in the scrum and the line out, the better over the longer term. Okay, tactical focus. Playoff set piece. Line outs. Let somebody in. Line outs. I think five-man line outs. And really, you're going to be lifting at the front most of the time. These players here are in place because, for two reasons. One, it just gives a little bit of traffic for the defense coming through. I'm going to put that 9 in a different position in a moment. The next thing is that you really will be focusing mainly on attacking up this channel. And the reason is that you're taking mostly front ball and you've got a 9 pass, which isn't very long. I wouldn't worry too much about getting the ball wide if you don't have the skillful players. Attack this channel here. We did this loads of times in Mumbles. We got 1 or 2 of our best runners to attack in here. We had 2 players to support them there, and other players in there. And then suddenly we've created 2 sides of an attack. There's a 15-meter channel here, and then there's a 40-meter channel or so this side. And then we could play either way. From the line out, I'm going to run out of room here. The line out, I wouldn't start 9 here. I would start 9 here. So he's actually facing the jumper, and the jumper is able to drop it to the 9 as he's moving this way. And if you've got a great jump, really, really good jump and is secure, this guy can actually turn all the way around and deliver the ball here to the 9. So he's given himself extra couple of yards. Scrum plays. Scrum play off the set piece. Apologies to anyone who runs it. Do not, for scrum plays, run plays. So this is your attacking this way, which go behind here, because you've got this space here. And I see so many teams do the play behind off first phase, and it doesn't create the space that you need. I would use those plays if you're going to use them off second phase. Much better to do plays with the ball in front of the defense and either be switches or pops or whatever to 12 or 13. At this age again, my suggestion is use one pass plays. So that might be a dummy switch here and a pop, a missed pass. One pass plays are often the best to cause problems in here. I think you should have a kicking strategy, and the kicking strategy should be identify who your kickers are, and then give them a couple of if-thens. If we're in our 22, what are we going to do? If we're on the 50-meter line, what are we going to do? If we're in there, if we're approaching their 22, what we're going to do? So they've thought about it beforehand. This is the slow thinking. Now, these are rule of thumbs. You're not saying we're definitely going to do it. It just gives them some thinking beforehand so players know what's going on. And attack strategy, structure. If you have your players for 4 to 5 hours a week, you can probably run a quite sophisticated structure. When I watch teams play, they will spend so much time getting into structure or trying to find a structure that they then miss out on other chances. You still need to have some form of structure, and from a very simple way of thinking about it, think about having a slow ball and a fast ball structure. If you've got slow ball, you might say we'll play something off 9, and if we've got a fast ball, we'll play something off 10. One way to do it, and I suggest this to the under-16s before, is to have, again, this is a rule of thumb, something very simple, something which can be easily broken, is that you go, we're going to go off 10 twice to the forwards, and then it will always go to the backs. Now, rule of thumb, simple play, players know what's going on. We're going to play the ball to the forwards off 10 twice and then go to the backs. Now, that's just one idea. You could play off 9, you could play off 10. But we don't want to spend too much time working out on things like the 1-3-3-1 or the 2-4-2 or whatever is the ones you can use. These will come, these will be appropriate when their players ready. I just don't think it's right now. Okay, shape of training. Let's say you've got about 90 minutes a week on average. Remember, we're working in blocks. I think blocks is a good way of doing it. What do we want to look like by game 1? What do we want to look like by the game when we get to half term, to get to Christmas? You probably at the start of the season, you've got a bit more time. Games, not so many. Set piece is 20 minutes max on set piece, 10 and 10. And so the scrums, you'll be every scrum session. Oh, my pen's gone into wild mode there. Click that off there. Get rid of this. Profiles. Always every session profiles. Then 2v1s, 2v2s. If you can see what I'm doing here, this is going to be a. So if I was just to make the red team, this would be one team, the reds versus the yellows. So you've got 2 in the front, 1 at the back, just to get them used to it and then build up. So you only need 6 players for that. It'd be great if you had loads of forwards at every training session. Doesn't always happen. And then with the lineouts, let's focus on lifts, and you've got to have at least 2 times players who can throw in. Yes, probably will be the hooker, but any player who can throw in is worth having. So just try it out. See anyone who can throw in. Don't say they have to play hooker, they can throw in. Skills, well, I've talked about tackling. I've done some tackling webinars. I've got plenty to share on the tackling there. I think that absolutely at this age, ball presentation and strong over the ball makes a massive difference, because you're going to be doing loads of ball presentation and strong over the ball. Now, when I say ball presentation, I'm hoping that you can move the ball before the tackle's completed, but let's get strong over the ball. My preference is to blast past the ball, but let's try and keep the players positive. And so you will be doing, say, so you've got maybe splitting off, but the players should be doing tackling every session, at least 5 minutes, if not 10 minutes. And with tackling, at this age, yeah, you're going to be doing some 1v1, but get a lot more 2v2 and 3v3 tackles, or 2v3 tackles, because really that's what the game's about. The players don't often do individual tackles. They're having to work out what they've got to do individually. So get those, fit those in. So that's 5-10 minutes on that, bone on bone. Get some ball presentation, and then get some gameplay in. And frankly, play rugby. 10 minutes of a game of rugby. Because you have with the World Rugby recommendations on the time played, if you've done 5 minutes of tackling, which is bone on bone, play 10 minutes of rugby. That's what the guys are coming to play. They're coming to play rugby. Now, of course, it depends on your training facilities. It doesn't have to be a full pitch. It could be in a very small area. It could be a 10-meter battle. But I say set up scenarios. All right, we've got 9 and 6, 9 passing to 6 other players, and then let's see how they can get on against 4 players. Couple of goes and then swap round. Or you've got a split here where we're going to start with a player on the ground here, and you can have two players either side, 1 defender either side. What are you going to do? How are you going to work it out? And then play from there. Just play rugby and give them chances to try things out. Okay, I'm whipping through loads and loads of ideas there. I was going to talk about catch and drive, and I think that with the catch and drive, that is very much a over to the players whether they think catch and drive is something that they want to do. It's certainly a powerful tool. I see sides use it very effectively. My caveat here is, we're going to go back 1 slide. You've got to fit it into here. If you are spending 20 minutes of your session on catch and drive, then that is time that you're taking away from the scrum. It's time you're taking away potentially from all these skills. It's time you're taking away from this part here. Catch and drive is very boring for most people other than the players who are involved in it. Right, so I'm just checking through here. So my idea is focus on blocks. What do you want to achieve by a certain amount of time? The emotional control and we not me is helping the players understand that they are growing, they're part of a team, and things aren't always going to go their way in training and on the field. So why not ask them the question? What happens if we are out-muscled? the referee is biased. Their players are, and I put inverted commas, cheating. What do we do? How do we react? What's the way that's going to work best? Now, I'm not saying that we need to be whiter than white in the terms of the way we play. We play, or we should play, to win. And I mean by winning, we want to be competitive without trying to bend the rules. However, we have got to recognize that these boys will want to be the best. They don't want to be, don't want to be made look fools. And this is the thing which I think we can often get wrong with under 15s. We can joke around, we can rib them, we can make fun of them. That probably isn't the thing that they want, despite the fact that probably some of them will enjoy it. Let's try to move away from that and give them chances within their group to feel stronger, bigger, taller, more like they are in control of what's going on. So if we see behavior which is focusing on them rather than the team, let's call it out. And even better, get them to call it out and then get them to become the leaders. And this is the best time to create leaders. Well, whether you decide to have a captain for the year, a club captain, or whether you want to have a leadership group, that again is up to you. We can talk about that at different stages. The more that they can lead on the pitch, the better. As I say, I've watched some YouTube clips back. Inevitably, the camera is being from the sideline, and all you can hear is the coaches and parents shouting on to the players what they've got to do. And guess what? The players are rarely reacting to what's being shouted at them. They're more reacting to what other players around them are saying. So my idea was to get through that in about half an hour. Obviously, it's just an introduction. What I'm going to do is being recorded. And if anyone wants to ask some questions, feel free to jump into the chat now. That would be great. I will be sending this out, plus some resources around it. However, overall, let's keep the conversation going. I've obviously emailed you. Please be in touch. I know I know obviously Eamon and Jake and Nick. We've all been in contact with each other before. Please, and probably others on there. Apologies if I haven't picked up your name there. Please keep in touch. Keep chatting. If there's stuff that we can do to support you, we'd love to support you more and help you out. And just hope that was useful in giving you a few ideas on moving up from under 14s to under 15s. And best of luck for the season. And I hope you could read my writing as well, actually. I suppose I should have asked that.